Hi, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking. Today I want to talk about giants of early America, the Isle of Giants. Okay, so this is some historical stuff that talks about giants, and I'm a big believer in giants. I have many reasons to be a big believer in giants because of some of the things I've explored in the past myself. But I want to tell you this interesting story, and I believe this story to be true. You know, everything, there is some exaggeration, of course, in all these types of stories that go way back, but I think a lot of it is very true. So let's talk about this. So there's this guy named Americo Vespucci. Okay, so he was an Italian explorer after whom the Americas were named. Okay, so he had documented a pretty fascinating encounter with giant beings during his voyages in the late 1500 and early 16th centuries. His journals provide vivid accounts of exploration in a land in an island actually called Curacao. Curacao, I think it is, a small Caribbean island off of the country of Venezuela. And the this encounter was detailed in his writings, which offers this kind of perception of the European look at the New World and its inhabitants, as well as sparking interest in the possibility of this race of giants in North America um, during that time frame. So uh, Pussy, Val Pussy journey to Curacao occurred during his second voyage, which took place between 1499 and 1500 under the Spanish flag. Departing from Seville in 1499, the Pucci and his crew crossed the Atlantic, initially landing in northern coast of South America. And after exploring the regions such as the mouth of the Amazon and coastal modern-day Brazil and Venezuela, their ships drifted towards Curacao. Uh, it was here where Vespucci recorded a extraordinary experience that would later be contribute to the island's historical moniker, the Island of Giants. According to Vespucci's account, translated by an Oxford scholar, Markham, in 1893, the explorer landed on Curacao shores to search for some fresh water. Initially, he had believed that the island was uninhabited due to the absence of visible people, but they were surprised to discover enormous footprints etched into the beach sand. Intrigued and perhaps apprehensive, Pussy and his men followed these tracks inland along a trail that stretched approximately 7 to 8 miles. And he came across this small village consisting of, I think it was like 12 houses, where they encountered five native women. Two were elderly and three were younger. Their statue was astonishing to the Europeans. Valpuche uh, described these women as so lofty in stature that they gazed at them in astonishment, suggesting that they were significantly taller than Europeans at the time. The Spaniards, likely to be drawn by Europe of colonial mindset, intending to bring back to Europe as curiosities or captives, which is pretty common. I mean, the Europeans would go somewhere and they see something really interesting and they want to grab it and take it back to Europe to become famous or something. Who knows? Um, so, however, their scheme was quickly dwelled when giant men from the village appeared. Valpusi noted that these uh, warriors were equally imposing, and they had, armed with bows and arrows and large oar-like blades finished like swords. So their physical presence was overwhelming. He wrote they were uh, a statue of giants in their great size and in the proportion of their bodies was corresponded with their height. The explorers suddenly aware that their own compatible small size, which was between, I guess at the time, the men were probably 5'5" to 5'7", uh, began to reconsider their intentions. Okay. Despite the tense encounter, the giants did not immediately attack. Instead, they engaged in conversation about these strange visitors. Capucci's uh, uh, crew communicated through sign language and using kind of soft gestures and soft words, explained they were here as, excuse me, as peaceful explorers seeking to see the new world. The giants provided, food and water, and the gesture kind of temporarily eased a little bit of the tension that was going around. However, as the Spaniards observed the giants' immense strength and robust builds, their initial boldness gave way to unease. Feeling potentially Feeling a potential hostility and retribution, possible retaliation, Valpusi decided to that it was going to be kind of prudent to maybe retreat. So he told his men to quietly and quickly get back to the shore, and the giants followed him and his crew cautiously, and they were at a distance. Upon reaching the beach where their boats were waiting, the situation escalated briefly. As the Spaniards rolled away from the shore, the natives rushed forward, launching a volley of arrows. So Velpucci's men responded with two bombardment shots, likely to be small cannons or other armaments, aimed more to intimidate than to harm. The loud blast scattered the giants into the woods, uh, ending the encounter. Relieved to escape, what Velpucci described as potentially dubbed Curacao, the island of the giants, in honor of their towering inhabitants. So he was the one that kind of started that. So this encounter raises some intriguing questions about the nature of the so-called giants. Were they truly a race of extraordinarily tall humans, or were their size exaggerated through the lenses of the European poor living conditions? Uh, Definitely, the Europeans were often shorter than our averages now, making taller indigenous populations appear extraordinarily large by comparison. The natives of Curacao at the time were likely a group called the Anahuac people, known for their relatively tall, well-built due to their diet and lifestyle, which included fishing and agriculture. Some historians speculate Velpucci's giants may have stood 6 foot to 6'6", impressive at the time, but not mythological in stature. So Velpucci's tale is not isolated to one of the annals of early exploration. There's another famous explorer, Magellan. He also had reported similar tall natives. And in 1520, Magellan's described the Pelagonians of South America as so tall, the tallest of them only came up to their waist. Magellan's crew only came up to their waist, estimating that the giants were probably 9 to 12 feet tall. Now we're getting into some huge giants here, okay? While likely exaggerated, these accounts fueled European fascination with the giants in the New World. In North America, later reports, okay, so there was more reports in North America itself that the conquistadors in Florida noticed and saw uh, these and talked to natives about these oral traditions. Some tribes, like the Algonquins and the Osage, also spoke of giant men who once roamed the land. Okay, so there was some of that in North America, and I think also that also I said Florida, but it was also like Alabama and Mississippi, mainly in the southern part of those states. Well, what are states now along the Gulf Coast. So archaeological evidence lends some credence to these stories. Across North America, excavations have unearthed skeletons of individuals exceeding 7 feet in height, particularly the ancient mound sites in Mississippi Valley and off the Channel Islands off of California. Um, so, for instance, in the early 20th century, the amateur archaeologist Ralph Glidden claimed to have discovered over 3,000 skeletons on Catalina Island, many averaging around 7 foot and some reportedly as tall as 9 foot. Similarly, there was a report from the Ozark Mountains, a cave in the Ozarks described as finding skeletons uh, 7 foot 8 inches tall, alongside artifacts hinting at a tall, robust population. While mainstream archaeology often dismisses these outliers, hoaxes, alternate researchers argue they suggest a lost race of giants, possibly suppressed by institutions like the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. But Pusey encounter on Curacao, however, remains a historical curiosity rather than a definitive proof. His journals, while detailed, were written for an audience eager for tales of exotic and mysterious, uh, and some scholars question their accuracy. However, the story aligns with many of the broader patterns of giant lore in early American exploration, blending observation with the era's pendants for sensationalism. Okay, culturally, the giants of Curacao left a lasting mark. The island's early inhabitants, encountered by the Pussy, were part of a vibrant Caribbean world soon devastated by European colonization. By the early 1950s, the Spanish conquistadors enslaved or killed many indigenous people in the region, including the population of these Arawak uh, peoples that the Pusi uh, had called the island of giants. They were probably devastated or completely wiped out. So it was basically ended up being a lost civilization. So, in a broader context, North American history, the Pusey's account contributes to a tapestry of giant narratives that span continents and centuries. While these people were extraordinarily tall, mythologicalized natives are something more mysterious that reflect human enduring fascination with the extraordinary giants. Now, Pusey even uh, was an observer to ensure that the uh, Curacao giants could not be forgotten, cementing their place in folklore of the Americas. A legacy of enduring as the continents bear his name. There are many stories, I believe, because of this, many stories. I do believe the races of giants are a real part of human history. And there are many races of giants. I'll tell you a quick story. A good friend of mine went to Nevada, very credible person, and he was lucky. There was a little museum there, and he went inside and he knew one of the guys that ran the museum, and he took him in the back and he showed him a skeleton, a real skeleton of a he said it was at least 10 foot tall that was found in Nevada of a giant. So when he told me that, that's kind of sealed the deal for me on the giant thing. So, anyways, with all that said, happy trails until we meet again. Bye bye.